Good morning, Gardenia! Happy Monday! We made it through another wonderful week. Survived a weekend. Survived to make it to survived a week to make it to the weekend. We have another week to survive to make it to the weekend. Thank you all for joining us on this Monday morning. I had a wonderful weekend here in Gardenia, landscaping, cutting down trees. I am in love with my new electric chainsaw. Home Light makes a 16-inch that's $80. $80 for a chainsaw is practically a disposable chainsaw, but this thing is not a paid endorsement. This is amazing. But one of the reasons we're a few minutes behind getting started today is we don't have Jim Freedom. He's actually MIA this morning. So I mean, not like he's the kind of guy who never goes missing for a little while. And he's got a lot going on in his life. But we are a little concerned. Hope to hear from him soon, get him on the air. Until then, CJ will be handling your comments this morning. And CJ and I also had a bit of a conversation before the show started because we are going to be covering the Ravensburg manslaughter story in South Dakota, in his home state. And it's not always easy because he did that. He actually was discussing it on another show before this morning. And it's kind of, I don't want, like, I was, oh my gosh, here's my opening monologue for the day. Yeah. What we do isn't, we don't do it because it's easy. We do it because it's hard. Like, but I do want to take a moment to remind people a little bit about what it means to cover the news and to cover it for yourself as a member of this audience, as what I think of as just a responsible human being, as a member of society. I don't mean you're irresponsible if you stop following the news for a while necessarily, but if you are living your normal best life and plugged into your community and the world, then I think it is a certain kind of social responsibility to be aware. And I hate to say to read the news, because I think of Thomas Jefferson, right? A person who reads nothing is uninformed. A person who reads newspapers is misinformed, right? So it's not just, hey, let me take in the lies of the mainstream media, but that whole manipulation of what's going on in your world to control your behavior is maybe a better way of describing the media racket, right? Because we think of normal, healthy, positive social engagement as including kind of keeping up with current events. Not necessarily reading the news every day, but at least knowing what's going on in your world so that you can better engage with your community, whether that's your immediate physical community or your work community or online or virtual or national or whatever community you're associating yourself with at the moment. But to be engaged in the world requires an understanding of it and an understanding of current events, what's going on now, before you just step in and do something, right? And in that venture of understanding current events, a lot of people take that, there's the cliche of the man from the 50s smoking a pipe, reading a newspaper, that's how the world is connected, because people read the newspapers and they get plugged into the mainstream media narrative. But now, back then, when the media was more concentrated in the hands of a few outlets, it was a pretty standard control of the conversation. The media was manipulatable, and therefore so was the public. It was very easy to get this false narrative of what's going on in the world out there. While today we do have stories about censorship and algorithms and people getting shut out of the social media conversation, it's harder. You can't hide a story. But you can shadow ban it. You can censor it. speak over it with the bigger megaphone of the mainstream message. And the mainstream message is keep doing what you're doing, good little wage slave consumers. Don't think for yourselves. Don't act out. Don't do anything out of the norm. Just keep going to work, paying your taxes, obeying the law, and voting for tyrants. So there's a lot of money in this. There's a lot of interest in this. In that sense, what we're doing as activists is as independent media producers is activism, simply saying no, don't fall for that narrative. Don't fall, like we're gonna do our, like, we don't know everything. We know enough of the truth to know that most of that, or at least the important parts of that mainstream message, are a lie, and that it needs to be addressed, it needs to be countered. And one of the nice things about the mainstream media, and there's a certain be afraid, 24-hour media news cycle, but there's also a kind of reassurance about it, right? Like, don't worry, your government's got this handled. We, the experts, can take care of this. So there's a combination of fear and soothing. And part of the fear is be afraid of these misdirections. Be afraid of these specters that we have fabricated, be they terrorism or the virus which shall not be named, or your fellow citizens who might be right-wing terrorist extremists. All of those things. Be afraid, but don't worry, we got this. The answer is to give the government and the authorities more power. So it's okay to be afraid of those things. Don't be afraid of police. Don't be afraid of wars. Don't be afraid of taxes. Don't be afraid of corporatism. Don't be afraid of getting ripped off by government. Don't be afraid of having your life ruined by red tape or lawsuits or a legal system pretending to be a justice system. No. Don't be afraid of those things, because that's us. That's us, the racketeers, the profiteers of this system. No, don't be afraid of those. Be afraid of what we tell you to be afraid of. And it's not just that what we're doing is pointing all of this out as a whole, like just what I was able to just, sort of summarize in a couple minutes here. But even at a certain level, when we're saying be afraid of these things that you should be afraid of, don't be afraid. Be aware. I don't want to say be afraid. I would never tell you to be afraid. But be concerned with, be aware of, direct your attention and your energies towards these real problems instead of these fake problems. And sometimes those real problems are real hard for us to cover. We don't do this because it's easy. We do it because it's hard. No, it's not. That's not why. We do it because it's the right thing to do. And sometimes the right thing to do isn't always immediately the easiest thing to do. It is in the long run. Do the wrong thing. See how that works out for you. But the right thing here is to call attention to the evils of the world, the real evils. It's not easy. It takes a toll sometimes. And especially for those of us who are motivated to do what we do because of our traumas that we've experienced as a result of statism. Many of us, the core team of this production, of course, being military veterans. Often for us, it is because we saw this evil as the enforcement classes, the trigger pullers, the killers. And sometimes it's covering those stories that are difficult. There were no massacres on the other side of the world at the hands of the U.S. military this weekend that we know of. They're probably, they're decent odds. Oh man, we do get to whistle past the graveyard with that Marine Corps sense of humor, do we not? But Even things like this Ravensburg case in South Dakota. A man was killed. Oh, but they're how? What? Geez, what is the world population now? 8 billion. World. We can say 8 billion now. What is the world population? Let's ask the Google machine. 7.8 billion people. We're calling it 8. There are 8 billion people on the planet now. What's one more person killed by a hit and run accident in South Dakota? What's one more person? Well, a million deaths is a statistic. It's the one that's the tragedy. But even in covering that one and saying we're going to come to this today, even in covering that one death, you have to think, could it be me? One of the ways that the general population is manipulated through the mainstream media, manipulated to fall in line, is by an avoidance of the fear of death. Oh, you definitely don't have to worry about dying. Big Daddy government's got you taken care of. We will protect you at least as well as a rancher protects his cattle. And there's something very comforting about that. Living as if death doesn't exist. Like, you don't really have to worry about it. And it's not easy, but oh my gosh. How much better is life when you can face death with a smile on your face? And you know the saying, right? All men die, not all men truly live. You can take the sexist part out of that language, of course. But yeah, thanks for being a part of this, because it is by facing the relevance of the news, facing what it means for me, and hopefully what it means for you every day. It makes me feel alive. And with that, let's get to Comment Jim Freedom now with us in studio. Look at that. Just a short 10 minutes later of Adam's rambling, and Comment Jim Freedom appears. And is in the remote the Phoenix studios of Adam versus the Man, the Phoenix Freedom Factory, as opposed to the Gardenia Freedom Factory. How you doing this morning, Jim? You look cold.
Excellent. I'm just lazy this morning. I didn't feel like doing my hair. It is a little bit chilly. I got the chills a little bit, so I got a long sleeve on. I'm a little different today.
That's
I'm
funny.
running late, obviously.
Today's the first day. I look halfway presentable in a week.
We're switching sides.
Right. After facing death this morning,
smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day.
Woo! Good morning, Kimberly. Good morning, Greg. Good morning, Matt. Good morning, everybody in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us. Brad is with us in the Producers Club as well. John A. Johnson, welcome to the show. Yeah, and who is it that said Happy Mental Health Monday? Thank you for that reminder. I mean, we do try to do, a Mental Health Monday kind of theme for the show. Bring everybody back from the weekend, help you face your week. Oh, wow. Although we do have some good news. I gotta say, we're good news that we're saving for Friday. And I think it was Mercedes sent us this in the Producers Club from newatlas.com. Scientists establish freaky two-way communications with lucid dreamers. We'll see where that goes for mental health. Although in the human optimization section of our Friday Good News show, we do we do a human optimization section that includes a lot of the positive mental health developments, at least in a progress sense. But I suppose today's opening monologue, like, yeah, let's face death with a smile. That's a good way to kick off Mental Health Monday. Jim, what else do we have in the comments here? And thoughts for a comment contest today? Maybe something in line with the theme of Mental Health Monday.
It's a good question. I don't know about the contest. We got you've been T-rolled, you've been trolled. Says, has Jim Freedom and Vermin Supreme ever been in the same room together? Let me answer that question. No, we have not.
Well, I hate to to go from something so awesomely hilarious to something totally dark, but just in keeping up with the theme of Mental Health Monday. So everybody knows we got like a headlines grab bag. We got a COVID block. Yeah, we got to catch up on COVID. It's been busy this weekend. Then we're talking to Ned Kelly, the chair of the Libertarian Party of Kansas, about their resolution condemning mask and vaccine mandates. And then we're going to come back to the news and get into that Ravensburg story with CJ and some South Dakota insight. But in our COVID block today, here's the dark news, and I just it's kind of a big I told you so. Iowa doctors link pandemic to increase in teen suicide attempts. Yeah. So I don't know, like I think our comment contest today should be, something on that just positive theme of sort of just what keeps you in a good mood in lockdown. Like what's something new that you developed as a habit for your mental health, or just something that you find enjoyable during COVID. I'm trying to think for myself, because I really should have something, because I've said this on the air a few times that it was like a few months into this last year after we got married. My wife said, I'm tired of pretending this isn't affecting us. And even if you're doing well financially, even if you're doing well in your relationships, even if you're doing well with your career and logistics and everything else, we all live in a world where anxiety is through the roof, suicides are increasing, a lot of people are anxious and desperate. We have some economic impact stories about COVID as well this morning. But I'm trying to think, what am I doing? What am I doing more of now that we're on lockdown that's keeping me sane?
Meryl Ganja.
Smoke weed every day.
No, I'm actually smoking a bit less, I think, post-COVID. Because, well, I'm sort of like, I smoke by myself now. My wife doesn't smoke. We don't have anybody at the garden. We have visitors, we have people come and hang out and smoke socially with them. But when I was on the road and it was like all the time, I don't know. I still smoke before going to my weight pile out here, as opposed to going to the gym. But it's not like really new. I hope this isn't violating her privacy at all. But my wife recently has been lamenting the fact that concerts haven't been a thing the way they used to, clubs, parties, just that whole layer of society, of social interaction that happened through certain venues just like doesn't exist anymore. And that's really got a lot of people down. So I'm kind of curious, because then I'm like, wait, what should I be doing differently? Because I am missing out on socialization a little bit. I'm not like, I really am more of an introvert. I'm practically an extrovert. I get it, because I enjoy communicating with, but like I'm wired to be more of an introvert, so it doesn't hurt me. Like I don't feel bad being isolated. I don't feel loneliness the same way. I have my wife here most of the time. I have visitors, so it's not that bad. But I don't have the same, like going. Although, hey, like I go out into town around here in northern Arizona, maybe it's not that bad. A lot of places, people aren't. Although, just still, you go out and it's most places, most people are wearing masks, and it's weird. And I don't know. So what are you doing? Well, that's our comment contest. What do you think, Jim?
That's a good one. See if we can find some. I don't know. I'm trying to think of it myself, and I'm like, what is there? You know, I know people are. I know where it goes on the negative. You know,
Right.
people are going crazy, and people are
Well,
losing
Jim,
it. I
you
don't
would
know.
not dispute that you have experienced, if only taking your personal experiences out of this, but I think you would admit that by your personal experiences over the last year, that you have had increased negative mental health outcomes. Of you've had period. You have that's really a. I don't want to. I'm trying to describe categorically that you've had negative mental psychological impacts of some increased anxiety, some increased loneliness, some increased angst, some increased resentment, some increased frustration at how the world is going, and seeing people getting ripped off, right? I mean, there's so everybody, I mean, even if you're like Superman, you're going to be affected by this. So you should be at least doing something to adjust. What are you doing? Let's ask people that. And Jim, for our best comment on what are you doing to stay happy, or what are you doing extra to stay happier during this COVID season, in the comments, what would they win?
Well, if they come up with that great answer and win this contest, they will win access into the Producers Club. What is the Producers Club? Someone might ask. Well, the Producers Club is our private chat on Telegram. It's a private chat group, basically a group text message between all of us that run the show. And it's a level cooler, in my opinion, than the public Telegram channel that anyone on the broadcast can join. That's at
Which we still need.
t.me.
I should, Jim. I got to interrupt and say, like, I like that the anchor of the public channel is me posting um, just the links to the show every day, and as a news digest that we have created. That's what the Producers Club creates. That's really cool. But I kind of want help. I want to ask, and maybe we should be asking in the Producers Club. But and CJ started this, and it was awesome. But we need someone to sort of manage that Telegram broadcast channel. If someone wants to help step up, create a stream of content, or make sure that all of my existing content is getting ported there. And people are, I mean, we're not even notifying people when we go live at this point. So let's, count on YouTube for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're always looking for volunteers, and that would be sort of the priority one right now for the show, I think.
Excellent.
Someone wants to step up. Internship. Yeah. That way you can volunteer and we get free labor and you get no money, but we get to like give you an extra strong pat on the head by calling you an intern instead of a volunteer, and then you can like use it for college credits and other stuff. Yeah.
That's good thinking. It's also another way that people can get a hold of you. Instead of emailing you at adam@thefreedomline.com, if they join the public channel, then they can just go to you and send you a private message right there in Telegram.
It's really the best way to reach me.
Yeah, it's really the best way. Exactly. So t.me/Adam versus the man is the public channel. And you can go there, get access. But if you want to join the private group chat, and you don't want to wait till you win a contest or something, you can just go to adamversustheman.com. Right there on the front page, there's a button for Patreon. Click on that, and it shows you the different levels you can support the show with: $1, $5, $10, or $50 a month. $10 a month gets you access into that Producers Club. I was going to say Freedom Club, into the Producers Club, the private chat that we were talking about. So definitely check that out if you're interested. After that, go back to the store CJ's put together also on adamversustheman.com. Check out all of our merchandise that we have there, everything from shirts to hats, coffee mugs, towels, beach towels, all kinds of stuff. You can get the Freedom logo on just about anything: backpacks, bean bags. Make sure you click the load more button at the bottom of the screen a couple times, because there's a lot more stuff than just one page. So definitely check that out. And always remember, Producers Club members and better patrons get 15% off and free shipping every time, every order. So that's awesome. And as Mercedes points out, there are Freedom panties as well in that store. So definitely check those out. After that, go back to the website that has everything. AdamVersusTheMan.com, and you can click on the Cigar Federation. That's our affiliate program. They have an awesome selection of exotically flavored cigars for everyone to check out. And if you use promo code all caps Adam10, you get 10% off of your entire order there. So that's awesome. Definitely check that out. And lastly, if you're on Instagram, check out at the Garden of Freedom on Instagram, and you can keep up with everything that Adam has got going on up there in Gardenia. You can see he's got three new sets of pictures up there at the top for people to check out. So definitely go there and check that out at the Garden of Freedom on Instagram. With that, back to you.
All right. Well, we also, by the way, we have another caller calling in towards the end of the show, so we are going to have to get into these headlines and jump right into it. So, as you may have noticed, the title of today's episode is Viva Catalonia, inspired by this headline from DNYUZ.com. Spain hoped Catalonia's separatists would fade. They're gaining ground. For years, Spain's government dismissed the separatist movement in the Catalonia region as little more than a souffle, easy to inflate, but then collapsing in on itself. Sounds like a great slur, right? You souffle! And yet the movement shows no signs of imploding anytime soon, even amid a pandemic that has bridged divides elsewhere in Europe. In a regional election on Sunday, parties seeking to create a breakaway state for Catalonia as part of northeastern Spain that includes Barcelona increased their majority in the regional parliament. They began negotiations this week to form a coalition. Election turnout was sharply reduced by the coronavirus, but the final tally showed pro-independence parties receiving a majority of votes, a prize that had long eluded them. From a pro-independence point of view, this is something to celebrate, said Adria Alsina, a Barcelona politician. I suppose I should be using proper Spanish pronunciation. Barcelona, the lisp thing. Oh my gosh. Political analyst who supports breaking away from Spain. It's one less argument for those who are against independence and say we never got a majority. Catalan independence, once a pipe dream of a small group of people, has arguably been Spain's most polarizing issue for almost a decade. The standoff reached a boiling point in 2017 when the region's separatist government organized an independence referendum. It went ahead even after Spain's courts declared it illegal and the police cracked down on voters. So I just want to point out, a couple things. This is just a very encouraging story overall for freedom, for decentralization of government, for transitioning to voluntary, non-coercive systems. Obviously, all the things that we want as libertarians, a world of peace and love and harmony and respect for individual rights. There are a few proxies to this, and then I actually found the story last week getting ready for our special Wednesday secession panel. Please check that out. It was just an incredible panel. We had 5 guests on from California, Alaska, and Hawaii, and it was just an amazing conversation. If you missed it last Wednesday, please go back and check out that episode. One of the things here in this last paragraph, though, worth pointing out, arguably Spain's most polarizing issue for almost a decade. So this is going to happen eventually from my analysis. And that's more of a long-term understanding than an analysis of the immediate situation or any particular momentum with what's going on in Catalonia, because the future of government in the world may include the current boundaries of nation states as we know them as delineations of areas of cultural heritage, as this is where we were all collective victims of this government, but it's more it's going to be decentralized one way or another. I think we're gonna see. I mean, given the history of governments, we're more likely to see borders change than governments go away in the immediate future, right? So one of the ways that the borders change is by secession, by decentralization, localization, breakup of unions, things like that. And it's a very long-term process. And I want to remind my fellow millennials, because I'm only 39, that not everything, even I've said as a rallying cry in speeches, we get to be the generation that when we come into power, we can redraw all the lines on the map and not be bound by saying we have to do it this way because it's always been done this way. No, but it's still very long process. Whether voluntary or coercive, society is run primarily, or at least in large part, by institutions that have a lot of momentum, social momentum, habit formed momentum behind them, and they won't turn on a dime. So in the United States, we take Calexit, which I think, one of the questions on our panel is who goes first? Hawaii, Alaska, California, and given Hawaii's horrific colonial past, things could happen there overnight. There is, if that is tapped, you don't get to do that in California with a whole, well, not that there hasn't been colonial imperial tragedy in California, but not of a sort of singular geographical nature attached to islands or an identity of a common culture like in Hawaii. But 10 years, that's our benchmark, and it's still not happened in Spain. So the referendum was followed by a declaration of independence, which prompted Spain's central government to oust the Catalan government and charge its members with crimes, including sedition. Some of them fled Spain to avoid prosecution, while others ended up in prison. Tensions heightened in Catalonia this week after the police arrested a popular rapper, Pablo Hasél, in the town of Lleida, I guess, yeah. Mr. Hasél, 32, his real name is Pablo Rivadavia Duro, faces 9 months in prison on charges that his rap lyrics glorified terrorism and denigrated the monarchy. That's probably what it's really about, right? Challenging the authorities, denigrating the monarchy. But let's just attach glorifying terrorism into that. So it's these two, we can associate. Oh well, if you're denigrating the monarchy, you must be glorifying terrorism. But protests in support of him began on Tuesday in Barcelona, Madrid, and other cities, and have turned violent. So people are pretty passionate about, a rapper going, and this is, yeah. So this thing about the momentum with Catalan, Joseph Remenero, a Catalan columnist and philosopher, said, the independence movement is here to stay. Sooner or later, somebody in Madrid will have to recognize that. So this is, as the article relates to, connected to Scotland and the 2014 referendum there. And this is going to take some time. And just a little more information on the violent protests. Our next headline from Associated Press: angry youths rattle Spain in support of jailed rap artist. Yep. The imprisonment of a rap artist for his music and tweets praising terrorist violence and insulting the Spanish monarchy has set off. Now, that seems like an unjournalistic judgment. Has set off a powder keg of pent-up rage this week in the southern European country. The arrest of Pablo Hasél has brought thousands to the streets for different reasons. Under the banner of freedom of expression, many Spaniards strongly object to putting an artist behind bars for his lyrics and social media remarks. What, you think this was America? They are clamoring for Spain's left-wing government to fulfill its promise and roll back the public security law passed by the previous conservative administration that was used to prosecute Hasél and other artists. So this is connected to COVID, of course, because in Spain, the youth there has the highest unemployment rate in the EU. 4 in every 10 eligible workers under 25 are without a job. So, hey, if you got nothing to do, you're going to go protest, right? You would hope in the United States there would be a little bit more of that. We'll come back to that. But a few more international stories related to this before we get to our COVID block. USA Today. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny loses appeal against prison sentence, calls Putin Voldemort. Yes. Moscow court on Saturday rejected Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny's appeal against his prison sentence, even as the country faced a top European rights court's order to free the Kremlin's most prominent foe. Speaking before the verdict, Navalny urged Russians to stand up to the Kremlin in a fiery speech, mixing references to the Bible and Harry Potter. A lower court sentenced Navalny earlier this month to 2 years and 8 months in prison for violating terms of his probation while recuperating in Germany from a nerve agent poisoning that he blames on the Kremlin. Russian authorities have rejected the accusation. So, yeah, pretty. This is just for the background here. Navalny, 44, an anti-corruption crusader, and President Vladimir Putin's most vocal critic, appealed the prison sentence and asked to be released. The Moscow City Court's judge on Saturday only slightly reduced his sentence to just over 2.5 years in prison, ruling that a month and a half Navalny spent under house arrest in early 2015 will be deducted from his sentence. Like, why stick it in there? But more importantly, his arrest and imprisonment have fueled a huge wave of protests across Russia. Authorities responded with a sweeping crackdown, detaining about 11,000 people, many of whom were fined or given jail terms ranging for 7 to 15 days. All right. We have a few more grab bag stories, and we're going to come back to those. But, we have the South Dakota Ravensburg story. We have the feds investigating Roger Stone and Alex Jones over the Capitol riot. We're going to come back to that, plus our guest in the second half of the show, but only after we get to, of course, now our COVID block. Woo! Yes. Nothing in this segment of the show is to be taken as medical advice or anything that would contradict any advice from the World Health Organization or your local health authorities. And as I would tell the YouTube censors about everything else, all we do here is parody. It's all just no, none of it's real. None of it's real. But since I had another story I was going to connect this to, because we're at a major milestone today in the United States, and you're going to be hearing about this for a while. This is the top news story in our COVID block because American lives are worth more than everybody else's because we are the privileged citizens of the empire, and if you have an American passport or driver's license, you're special. You're better than everybody else, and your death matters more than anyone else. You know, and if you were in Iraq in 2004, if you died under the service members group life insurance, your family would get $400,000. If you killed an Iraqi, their family would get a $2,500 Salacia payment. It's a matter of expressing solace for your loss. That's generally how the world, in effect, values puts relative value on the lives of human beings. So even in the mythology of COVID, the global death toll is not nearly as important as the American death toll, because the American death toll is how we scare the citizens of the empire into supporting and enduring their government doing horrific things to serve their sponsors. And remember, the purpose of government is to help the super rich get richer at the expense of the rest of us. And they are doing such a wonderful job right now as we see the net worth of people like Bill Gates, Bezos, Zuckerberg, Musk, just through the roof. So the day today is what we get to from NBCnews.com. U.S. reaches 500,000 deaths from the coronavirus. Yeah. The U.S. death toll from the coronavirus topped 500,000 on Sunday, according to an NBC News tally, a milestone that underscores the grave threat the virus still poses, even as more people are vaccinated. That should kind of bother you, the way that TV networks calling elections should bother you. Right? Wait, we live in the most advanced, expensive democracy in the world, and we can't have the government reporting more reliable results better than Fox News calling Arizona for Biden. Yeah, okay. Enough of that sidebar. The coronavirus has killed more than 2,462,000 people worldwide, according to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University. More than a fifth of all deaths worldwide have occurred in the United States, which is less than 5% of the global population. And this is like, yeah, we're number one, outsized proportions of deaths to population. Now, there's this is kind of like the incarceration statistic. Like, we have, what, 5% of the world's population and 25% of the world's yeah, inmate population. Well, we also have 20% of all deaths worldwide, according to Corona. Now, in the United States, we've looked at this number before. We've really hacked this apart. When it was, I think it was when the number was at 200,000, and the 6% statistic came out from the CDC, that of those 200,000 deaths, only 6% of them were from just Corona. Now, that doesn't mean that in the rest, the other 94%, there were an average of 3 pre-existing conditions, yada, yada. And a lot of people jumped on this a little disingenuously and said, well, look, only 6% of these deaths are Corona deaths. That's not quite true, because, if you had diabetes and your health was just a little fragile and coronavirus pushed you over the edge and killed you, you still died of Corona more than diabetes. Now, then, what if it was a case where you had some other chronic illness and you were about to die from that, and Corona was an aggravator and made it happen a little faster, but the other thing was still the primary cause of death? Well, those are still getting counted as COVID deaths. And then if you tested positive, then there's a whole other category of people who are testing positive after death, after car accidents, motorcycle accidents. There was the gunshot to the head victim in Washington State who tested positive after death, and that was counted as a COVID death. And so is it 6%? No, but somewhere between maybe 15 and 50% at most. That's still a huge range. It's pretty sad that we don't know better. But why does the U.S. have so many more COVID deaths? Is our hygiene shitty? Is our health shitty? Yeah, remarks. Flea Market Mutt comments, COVID just recently killed 2 in a meth lab explosion. Yeah, they were so depressed they had to do meth to compensate. And no, all right, we'll stop that sidebar. But thank you. Yes. So even this. So then, why? Like, could you explain this? And of course, part of this is just the flow of the virus. And even here in the United States, we have some interesting data that shows, and we have in our block today, I'm going to get to these international stories. You see country to country, different responses, same outcome, and you go, well, what explains that? Maybe your responses were just irrelevant and the virus doesn't give a fuck about your mask policy, right? And in the United States, we have pretty good hygiene, medicine, things like that. So I would say, let's just go with the average of that. Let's say, we are, let's say it's a quarter, let's say it's in that range of, those 500,000 deaths. It's only a quarter of them are truly COVID deaths. Well, that puts us back in line with the global average. Instead of being a fifth, instead of being 20%, and I know this is very imprecise math, but 20% is 1/5. Well, now it's really only a quarter. Well, a quarter of that would be 5%. You got to adjust then for the reduced total. It might be 6 or 7, whatever percent. But that kind of puts us in line with a proportion of the global population for the U.S., according to this article, being 5% of the global population. And part of this is the financial incentive. In what other countries do you get paid more money by the U.S. federal government to report COVID deaths? Well, a lot actually, but you get paid the most here in the United States. So with that, you go, well, now cases, and this is interesting, total cases, 28,206,650 confirmed in the United States. And this is another thing we have to tease out and not understand in an unfortunate sense, is that it could be a lot more than that, because what 80 something percent of cases are asymptomatic, never get tested. And if you had good data analysis, and somebody does somewhere, and it's too bad it's not sort of more no, well, this is the kind of thing they deliberately will obfuscate because it ruins their fear narrative. If you can look at this and go, well, actually there are 4 times as many cases or people who have been exposed who may or may not test positive, but from understanding how this spreads, in an asymptomatic way with most people for whom it has no effect whatsoever. What if this 30 million, rough number, confirmed cases was actually like 90 million? And we go, well, hold on a second. Then all of your other numbers, percentage-wise, are only a third as bad as we thought. And then really only about a quarter of that, so like 1/12. And you go, wow, maybe it's only 1/12 as bad as they're telling us, or something like that overall. I know rough numbers, but just something for perspective. It really makes you look at things differently when you see things like this next headline from Reuters. Americans may still need masks to fight COVID in 2022, Fauci says. Americans may still need to wear masks in 2022, even as the country relaxes other restrictions to combat COVID-19. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, said on Sunday, while daily infection rates are coming down dramatically, they're running out of people to test. Thousands of Americans still die every day from the virus, and less than 15% of the U.S. population has been vaccinated against it. And speaking of the vaccine, PennLive.com has this headline: second shot crunch leaves many without complete COVID-19 immunizations. It's so much I told you so, I can't even take it. Yeah, the rollout's going to be clumsy, awkward. I didn't say that specifically. You get the first shot, not the second, but that there were going to be problems with this. And one of the things that looking at this from a sort of libertarian economical analysis, as we like to track value. I mean, there's a reason libertarians who have an interest in economics as a way of understanding the world, the dismal science, not for the purposes of getting rich, but sort of understanding how much government and statism really costs us. I see a story like this next one. This is Star Tribune. Like the Hunger Games, Minnesota vaccine hunters chase elusive doses via social media. And you go, well, you get 2 shots and you're done. Like, what's the big deal here? Well, it's just people helping each other work through this horrific system that they have been scared into submitting to. And I think about there's a picture of this woman playing with her kids in the story. And I just think about all the time losses. And for one, think about the time that she is spending on message boards and talking to people, trying to get a vaccine for her and her kids so they don't have to be isolated anymore over a virus that really isn't a threat to any of them. Should say not a significant threat enough to warrant any of this. And instead of even accepting lockdowns and going, well, how do I be a better parent? How do I create more value? Instead of spending that time, online or with her kids. Instead of spending that time with her kids, she's spending it online. And that's just one little example that maybe pulls at the heartstrings, but holy crap, look around the world. Look at how much energy has been malinvested around COVID. How many people have died during this time as a result of the lockdowns and shutdowns and all of that? But how many more people could we have saved from other things if we weren't worried about this? Could we, if instead of this massive social effort to focus on and stamp out COVID, what if we had said, let's end world hunger instead? Let's address the problem of war and militarism once and for all and ensure that wars never happen ever again. We could have done that. Instead, we're doing this. Now, look at my next couple stories internationally. As I said, we get to this medicalexpress.com. Germany urges caution as COVID infections climb again. And now what they're saying is that it's the British variant which is more contagious. And then we go to Italy, same outlet, medicalexpress.com. Top virologist warns Italy virus cases rising again. And again, this is the coronavirus cases in Italy are on the rise again, in large part due to the more infectious British variant, a top virologist warned in a newspaper interview published Sunday. And this is something we talked about from the very beginning, because you have a new virus going out in the population. As it spreads, as most viruses like this do, they get less deadly and more contagious over time. And from an evolutionary biology point of view, sort of analysis of what's going to cause that virus organism to succeed, it makes sense, right? And that there would be variants and that those would be used as extensions for the lockdowns, the shutdown, the exploitation. This is something I hate to say I told you so about. And the longer this goes on, the more I'm hoping that the pushback comes in the form of a sort of peaceful evasion of the bubble boy world solution of, okay, government, I'm wearing a hazmat suit and a bubble helmet every time I'm in a public space or a government licensed retail environment. And when I'm at home, I do whatever the fuck I want, but you can't stop me from doing what I want. If I'm in public, if I'm in a bubble boy suit, and if I'm at home, I'm going to do whatever I want. But the vaccine intersection with this and the patchwork of responses from country to country is also going to be relevant. The Wall Street Journal has this next headline: Israel's speedy vaccination campaign now faces key tests in returning to normal. One scary possibility that I sort of predict is likely to happen here is that they're going to use Israel to say the vaccine wasn't enough and we're still having outbreaks and second waves and new viruses coming in. And yeah, so in Israel, the subtitle here is officials combine incentives with threats, offering perks while warning that those who don't get the shot will be shut out of everyday activities. Yeah. Now, in a story that's got everybody in our producers club riled up, 80-year-old kicked out of hospital for holding husband's hand, from Yahoo. Kevin Creviton and her family have been navigating the changing COVID-19 restrictions at New Brunswick long-term care homes and hospitals since the pandemic began. The Riverview woman understands the need to keep vulnerable populations safe, believes there should be more compassion for people like her father who has Alzheimer's and is living in hospital as he waits for a nursing home bed. Yeah. But this is your husband rolling hands. I mean, this is just the insanity is enough to make you go crazy or fight back, or both. Wall Street Journal has this next headline, adding to the economic aggravation: travel's COVID-19 blues are likely here to stay. People will go out of business. The tourism industry, which hoped for a rebound from the pandemic in 2021, is bracing for a slower recovery. And this is something I really do kind of have to admit that I got wrong in my analysis. in thinking that there would be more of an economic recovery by now, that we would find more of a way around it, that businesses would be coming back. I guess I could say I'm a sucker for believing even that part of the government narrative, right? But when Trump said, "Well, restaurants will come back just under new ownership," I was like, I was focusing on the new ownership part and not the coming back part, because it turns out the coming back might not even be happening for quite a while. That this is all going to be dragged out even longer, and that businesses that have been desperately holding on, going, if we hold on really, really, really hard, we can maybe make it to February of 2021, and now we're here. Well, we made it this far, but business isn't coming back. The lifeblood is fading from our grips, and we must let go. And there are a lot of people finding themselves in that position now, finally. And to make matters worse, KCCI.com has this headline, the grimace of I told you so's. Iowa doctors link pandemic to increase in teen suicide attempts. Iowa doctors say they're seeing an alarming increase in teen suicide attempts. Dr. Ken Chang says the pandemic is largely to blame and action can be taken now to confront the issue. He says teens are missing out on the support they need and increasingly feeling alone. Chang says at the end of January, the Iowa Poison Control Center noticed a major increase in 11 to 14-year-old girls attempting to hurt themselves by ingesting medication. He says warning signs include sleeping issues, irritability, difficulty with focus, weight loss or gain, and increased anxiety. He's just helping adolescents get involved, so they do have a sense of belonging. Quote, one of the things that we can all do as adults is we can try to make sure that the adolescents and young adults that we come into contact with know the importance of having a schedule, not getting your days and nights mixed up, working on the basics, eating healthy. Yeah, that's a thing. Teenagers locked at home, getting their days and nights mixed up more than usual. And I suppose you have to admit in all of this, by the worst estimates, the virus has never been a threat to teenagers. And instead of letting teenagers be amongst each other and be out in the world, they've said stay home, because if you go out in the world, you might bring the virus home and infect parents or grandparents. The ones who are much more afraid here. And I suppose what they didn't realize, or what they were afraid, a couple of things here. Like, even if the virus was really threatening to do that, it wasn't done in a conscientious way intended to look out for people, where we go, hey, we're going to make you do this. It's going to be hard, but we're going to have precautions in place. And we're going to be looking out for your mental health and taking care of you in these challenges. No, it's just, we're going to force you to stay home with your parents and with grandpa, grandma. And you go, was it that hard for you to admit that for teenagers, society and other teenagers are more important to them than you? It's a different kind of Karenism behind that sick level of control, and now the toll, the cost is measured in teen suicides. But to some more positive fighting back, we go to AlJazeera.com to tell us what the Dutch courts have done. In a wake of riots, Dutch court orders government to lift COVID curfew. Court sides with anti-lockdown group, prompting the prime minister to launch appeal to advise citizens to respect controversial measure. Yeah, Dutch court has ordered the government to scrap a nighttime curfew it imposed last month to fight the pandemic, saying officials were not entitled to use emergency powers to enforce. But in response to Tuesday's ruling, Prime Minister Mark Rutte urged citizens to continue abiding by the restrictions. Well, the dude abides, but not this shit. The nighttime curfew, in place since January 23, was the first to be rolled out in the Netherlands since World War II, and in part led to the worst riots seen in the country for decades. Now, if you're the government, there are riots. If you're a rioter, it's a protest, right? No, there have been some pretty extreme stuff. There's been some serious pushback in the Netherlands, and it's been fun to watch this story from a distance, and now to help celebrate in this victory with them. Now, back to Spain. From Reuters, in the closet under the mattress, pandemic partygoers hide from Madrid police. And I guess with the general reduction in human activity, cops have a lot less to do and they have to find other ways to harass the citizenry to generate revenue and prop up their broken system. So partygoers hid under mattresses and in a cupboard at a packed house in Madrid in an attempt to avoid police at one of 227 illegal parties raided in the city over the weekend for breaches of COVID-19 restrictions. 227 illegal parties have been detected in Madrid on Friday and Saturday. It is according to Madrid's municipal police force in their statement. People were not complying with the curfew, not using masks, or were in premises without any security measures. And there's this strange fight here to assert the basic human right to set your own level of risk. And there are a lot of different people fighting back in a lot of different ways. And this is really kind of underscoring a fundamental libertarian reality, and that fighting reality has negative, unintended, or at least not what you said was your excuse for doing this kind of consequences. And in this case, it really is unfortunate because people are dying. I mean, it's not as bad as war, I suppose. At least some wars. But you, as a free, beautiful, independent human being, have a fundamental, inherent right to set your own level of risk in your life. Other people can impose threats, but what you expose yourself to fundamentally is your choice in how you live. And you have to respect that in other people too. And if there's a new global standard of 6 feet, and if someone is wearing a mask, you stay away from them, or whatever it is that we establish. There are social norms. There are things that happen by consent and cooperation here. But you don't see the politicization of people taking risks with say skydiving. It's those damn skydivers, irresponsible, being a bad influence. No, it's the no mask wearers. So just speaking of which, I'm really excited about our guest who apparently is backstage. So let me just, this is the last story on our COVID block here. FoxSports.com. We want to go to the public sentiment in a revealing moment. Just embarrassing. Australia Open morons ruin ceremony by booing vaccines and the government. The Australian Open trophy ceremony quickly turned ugly on Sunday night as the Rod Laver Arena crowd jeered at mention of COVID-19 vaccines and the Victorian government. As Tennis Australia President Heini Redlicka thanked the extraordinary sacrifice for everyone over the past year, she mentioned that with vaccinations on the way, rolling out in many countries around the world, it's now a time for optimism and hope for the future. The mention of vaccinations brought audible boos that echoed throughout the stadium and around the world. So maybe the people of the world are not as gullible as the world mainstream media would have you believe. And that's our COVID block for the day. Our guest today is none other than Ned Kelly of the Libertarian Party of Kansas, the chair, and they recently passed a resolution condemning all mask and vaccine mandates and business lockdowns. this is really exciting. And as someone who wants to see the Libertarian Party grow and become stronger, but also explore other means of applying our ideas and political leverage as America's third largest political party. I got to say, Ned, to see the Libertarian Party of Kansas stepping up in this role outside of immediate political electoral contest and saying, we are going to step in on a relevant issue right now. Congratulations. This is beautiful. Ned, anything you want to say before I just jump into the story and let us know how this came about?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have an axe to grind. If I'm not a woodsman, but I do have an axe to grind with that comment Jim guy, that guy. Oh boy, where do I start? So I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I tuned in for a nice Adam versus the Man show, and it happened to be a Jim versus them, which is fine. I get it. You know, Adam needs a vacation every now and then, or go off and do whatever he's doing. And I was watching Jim hanging out, kind of going on and lots of tangents, fun times. And he talked about one of my favorite shows, SG1, Stargate.
Yes.
Right? I'm watching it. I'm going through it, you know. I'm like 7 seasons in SG1. And then Jim starts talking about one of the later series, Atlantis, and he spoils it. He does a big old spoiler without saying, hey, spoiler alert. Thanks a lot, Jim.
I thought everybody has already seen them all. I mean, they're decades old, you know. But I'm sorry. I'll say that.
The next
I apologize.
Stargate convention, Jim's gonna have to shave and go incognito, looking more like you. So
yeah,
not a pariah in the Stargate community.
That should be his atonement. But
well, why don't you make the connection for us, Ned? Why is Stargate SG1 something that motivates and inspires you?
Are you trying to make a segue now to get to our topic about the mandates resolution?
Yeah, well, of course, that's my job as the host, isn't it? No, hey man, I'm here to offer you my platform to support your activism.
I'm not going to do a job for you. I want to. You segue, man. Do it.
No, but I listened to that episode with Jim when over the weekend when I had to take delivery of our house building here in Gardenias. It was very exciting. We had a 16-foot by 40-foot shed delivered that's going to become our cabin. So it's a pretty good excuse for missing work, but yeah, there's always there's an interesting connection between the libertarian community movement as a whole, intellectual base, and science fiction.
You are doing the segue. You really do. Okay, keep it going, man. You're awesome.
Well, no, this is a really long one. Well, no, we don't have to, but I want to give you the chance to go wherever you want with this.
You got this, man. I like it.
There's so many other connections here too, with that we are not just scientifically minded, but open minded, and looking at principles. And the thing with the mask mandate, I mean, we're going to get deep in this. Here's the inside baseball political contest here is that within the Libertarian Party and movement, there's some people who have taken the propaganda all in, hook, line, and sinker. And there are those of us who are standing back, but and going, no, we have to be skeptical of all of this. But I think we should all be able to agree that no bio threat like this justifies violating individual rights, and none of it justifies any kind of mandate. And it has been disappointing that you are in the minority of Libertarian Party leadership actively taking a role in this. So wherever you want to go with any of those topics, brother.
Awesome. You started, or somebody started to show our website and the article there. That'd be great. So we did pass a resolution in January. The Executive Committee, Libertarian Party of Kansas, passed a resolution on January 26th, unanimously. The whole dang executive committee agreed. And then what you're looking at there is an article that our communications director, the lovely Allison, whom you had on your show to talk about music, being a professional musician and having to deal with.
Yes.
Yeah, you had a good time, fun show. That she wrote up this article which kind of expanded on the resolution we passed and puts it in a broader context. And she comes on strong with some good languaging there. I don't know if you either want to click on the link to pull up the resolution itself, or just go back to the blog post on the website. It's the blog post right before that one, and it'll show you the actual resolution. If you want to I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but if you
well, so the resolution's not very long. Would you like me to read the text into the record here?
Why not?
All right. So passed unanimously by the LPKS, Libertarian Party of Kansas Executive Committee, January 26, 2021. We, the Libertarian Party of Kansas, uphold the non-aggression principle and the property rights of all individuals. No government has authority to interfere with a person's bodily autonomy, their freedom of movement, voluntary commerce / business, or freedom of association. These include and are by no means limited to the following: one, the right of business owners and service providers to stay open, to set their own policies of conduct within their own premises and hours of operation. That includes policies as they see fit about the wearing of masks, receiving vaccinations, or any other health-related issue. All such requirements and restrictions are only moral when the business owner or service provider sets them voluntarily and not when coerced under threat of fines or punishment by any governing body. All right, Ned. Okay, you could have ended it right there. What else do we need? I mean, that's of course you get into the individual stuff, but that's huge, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's it in a nutshell. And then the other 4 points kind of specify some things about, because there are also mandates about gathering to get how many people can get together.
Right. So, well, number 2 is the right of customers to have freedom of choice and business and service providers. Like, it's sad that we have to reassert that. Already, it's sort of one of these just elements of market society reality that, hey, consumers get to choose where they shop. Even if you shut down everything, they can choose to go to your corporate bullshit or to not shop, right? Now you have the right to freedom of hiring, stores to patronize, as an individual to choose whether to wear a mask or not, as long as you're respecting the wishes of a business or service provider.
Right.
And then homes. And it again, we have it's sort of like, oh my gosh, America, back to basics. Yeah, freedom extends to your homes, your places of business, restaurants, theaters, arenas, clubs, gyms, etc. And it's that there should be no restrictions as long as the property owner says they have to, or says that they may.
Can I jump in there?
Please.
And so we did want to draw the distinction. Some people who are on our side, or on the side of, anti-mandate and pro-freedom, are kind of taking it in a weird direction of that store or that restaurant is requiring us to wear masks, and that's unconstitutional and that's immoral. No. They have no right to require us to wear masks. Well, yes, they do. It's their place. Just like if it was their home or whatever, they have a right to do that. So it was important to make that distinction. Of course, the problem is they're being coerced to make you do that. The government is using them as their hitman. So that's the whole problem.
Now, let me ask you a sort of separate question about the sentiment in Kansas, because when it comes down to it, even for business owners, technically speaking, under these mandates, their enforcement is somewhat by choice, because they can choose to say and some businesses have put up signs that say, if you come in without a mask, we will assume that you have a medical exemption or a religious exemption and not bother you. If you see any of our employees not wearing a mask, please assume the same and be respectful. If you ask, people will stay 6 feet away from you in our establishment. We support your right to maintain that hygienic distancing and wear a mask by your choice here. And then some businesses go, no, we're going to be straight up assholes about it and pretend like it's illegal to be within 100 feet of my door without a mask on. Like, I've actually experienced that, where it's like, no, you can wait in your car and we'll bring you food. And that way you can't say that we're discriminating against you for, a medical or religious exemption. So in Kansas, what's the sentiment been? Have business owners been going, one way or the other on that?
In Kansas, the governor, Governor Kelly, no relation to me, she spells her name differently, anyway, passed a statewide well, there's been a series of things with lockdowns and mask mandates, but each county on a county by county basis could opt, if they pass their own resolutions, could pass something different, could basically say, well, no, we're not going to require people to wear this or to distance this. We're going to require nothing at all, or, something less stringent or whatever. The vast majority of Kansas is fairly rural, and, I'm pointing that way, or maybe it should be that way, but the western half, more than half of the state, every county just kind of opted out of it and said, no, we're going to do our own thing. As we were hoping most counties would. I'm near Kansas City. I'm in the Kansas City area, some very, more densely populated areas, more liberal, progressive, and I'm in specifically Johnson County. And there's a couple of commissioners. There were 3, and now there's only 2. One of them, God bless her, Charlotte O'Hara, is not a libertarian, but very pro-liberty. She's going to be our guest speaker at tomorrow's Mixer at Don Cholito's, a very face-friendly restaurant in the Kansas City area.
That's the term now. Are you face-friendly?
Face-friendly, freedom-friendly, face-freedom-friendly, smile-friendly.
Let me see your smile.
For those restaurants. Adam, just being with you, you're going to see my smile, my friend. So some of these counties, like my county, did not choose to make a separate resolution. They've gone along with the state. So Johnson County, Wyandotte County, and a few other, mostly in the more densely populated areas, have these mask mandates. So all restaurants, you're supposed to wear the mask, at least while you walk in. And then when you sit down, you can take it off, because COVID doesn't get you when you're sitting down. Masks are magical.
Yeah. Or after 10 or before 10 p.m.
Yeah,
right?
Stuff like that. So most people just go along to get along. Most people, I don't even think, question it. It's just a different paradigm. It doesn't even occur to them that, should we question whether or not laws are moral or productive? I think that's the vast majority, and they just don't want to have to deal with it. In Johnson County, there's a really, I'd say, strong sentiment, upsurge of people who, there's groups called Unmask Johnson County, and other areas in the Kansas City area as well, where we're meeting up, we're organizing. I didn't plan this, by the way. I found out of the Libertarian Party much more organically, but they're cohorts. They have an issue that aligns with us, so we're doing as much as we can to cohort with them on this issue. But so the sentiment overall, it's I never wear a mask when I walk into a restaurant or a shop. Very rarely, maybe 10% of the time, a store owner or a clerk or somebody who works there will say, "Hey, you need a mask," and I'll say I'm exempt, or I'll just say, "No, thank you, I don't need one," and maybe they'll just leave it at that, or they'll say, "No, you do need one," and I'll say, "Okay, goodbye." Most of the time, I don't get into any argument. I just leave it at that. I'm going to shop.
Let me ask you specifically, have you, and what I mean is, have you ever, asked someone trying to enforce a mandate, if you I had a run-in at a dispensary recently in Flagstaff, and I'm not going to call them out by name, because it was one employee. And I wore the mask to come in, because I'm not trying to create a, when I go out, I'll sometimes wear a bandana That way, if someone I really want to be around says, please wear that if you're within 6 feet of me, I'll say, well, for you, I will, but
Oh, I'll
I'm
do
not
that too.
supposed to,
I'll do
because,
that too.
or if it's something really, really important, like buying weed at a dispensary, I'm not going to mess around with that. I'm going to put the mask on if I no, but
Oh yeah.
so I put the mask on to go through the door, and then I pull the mask off to show my ID, and then I go and sit down, and the woman at the door says, hey, you need to put your mask back on the whole time you're in here. And I say, well, technically, I'm not supposed to, medical exemption. She says, no, everybody has to. And I go, okay, for you, I put it on. And then I try to engage with her and say, like, well, hey, did you know that under Coconino County, Arizona ordinance, what you're doing is illegal because you're not actually respecting the medical and religious. And she didn't even want to hear it. She was just like, this conversation is over. And I'm wondering if you ever tried sort of pushing it in any situations like that and had any success there?
Yeah, good question. And I can't honestly say I've never worn the mask out in public. There have been, particular type of computer parts or whatever, where I knew there was just no place else I could go to. So maybe I'm a hypocrite. Yeah, I'm not 100% there, but for the most part, I'll just choose to give my business to places that don't try to enforce those mandates. I think once I did get into an argument with somebody, but it's fruitless. They think they're just doing their job. What we've found more effective here in Johnson County, and by the way, the sheriff has opened meetings with us and has told us no, he's not going to enforce. If anyone is fined or brought up on charges for not wearing a mask or for allowing people in their store or business without a mask, the sheriff's not going to enforce it. So that's pretty cool. We got that on our side. What we're mostly focusing on is educating business owners that they're safe. They can stay open, and they're going to actually attract more business because we're going to support them. So that's kind of the strategy of this group, Unmask Joe Co. and some of the local areas.
That sign I mentioned earlier that says, this is our policy. We respect medical and religious exemptions. I want to see people printing those out and like giving them away like as nice signs with suction cups to put inside windows for all these businesses to say, if you put this up in your store, I will come here every day as long as and I hate to say as long as you respect the law, but in this case the law happens to line up with the natural law.
Interesting. Yeah. Some of these stores or restaurants that are kind of openly allowing people to be open-faced, they'll still have the sign. We some of them don't. We prefer the ones that don't have a.
Oh right, yeah, I don't know. They put up the signs to keep cops away, right? To deter authorities. Masks required, no exceptions. Everybody has to have one, or you can't do business here. And then it's like, I don't know, we don't really care. We just put that up for fun.
Right. And some of them are more openly than others. Like the restaurant I mentioned earlier had an article written up in the newspaper about them. About they don't require their employees to wear masks either. So that's pretty different. We found there's a dozen or so restaurants that we've found that don't give you any trouble if you walk in without a mask, but you still see all the employees are masked. But it's fewer, and this is one of them.
Yeah, I hate to support restaurants doing that in a sense because you have to be sort of empathetic with the business owners for a second, and that a lot of restaurants operate on very small margins and or lose money even, right? And if 15% of your customer base is scared away because your staff doesn't wear masks.
Yeah, this particular restaurant, I'm sure, has gotten more business because of it, but it's the exception to the rule.
But not being dicks to your customers, that's always an option.
That goes a long way. Yeah, to me, an important distinction is that you should not be forced to wear something. You should not be forced to not go into a place of business if that business owner. It's all voluntary, regardless of the health concern. I don't care if wearing masks actually made you safer. I don't think it really does. But suppose it really did. Suppose wearing a mask makes you safer. It makes other people in the room with you safer. I'm still would 100% agree with this resolution that the government has no right to force you or your business tell you what you have to do.
Well, Ned, I want to jump into the inside baseball internal politics for just a minute here, because that statement is such a clear representation of applying libertarian principles here. That, hey, regardless of the science, we could go either way. Regardless of people disagree on the facts here, but we have to agree on principles. And I have been generally disappointed. I interviewed Spike Cohen. He said that with him and Jorgensen during the campaign, they actually made a real effort, to fight back and to have to speak at lockdown protests and to be seen without masks. But the national leadership, and I'll mention Sarwark by name here early on in this. Even I was very disappointed to see him spreading the fear porn. Look, people in Italy are dying. I mean, it was really. I don't want to say, unlibertarian, because he wasn't advocating for coercion, but it was an unquestioned acceptance of the government narrative, even promotion of a fear narrative around this thing. And then we don't have to get too much into the manipulations of why he might have been doing that around the national convention and everything he was trying to achieve within the party. But then there has also been a general lack of organized pushback from the perspective that you just represented there, that regardless of your take on the science, these are libertarian principles, and resisting these individual rights, denying this reality in policy is having terrible effects. Why do you think that is? Why has there not been a better addressing of this by the National Party leadership or by other state party leaders?
Good question. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for Kansas that we took so long, to pass such a resolution. It's a resolution. It's symbolic, but it's important to kind of clarify and boldly state our position. For us, there was stuff going on. We had our state convention back in March.
No, it's really, and I applaud. Excuse me for interrupting for a second here, but I do want to applaud you as being one of the few and underscore that. But when you say you're embarrassed for being behind, yeah, in a sense, just that idea sort of off the top of my head that like we should be passing out these signs to businesses and encouraging awareness, freedom awareness campaigns. Right now, this country is experiencing a huge surge of statism and impact of coercion. And the Libertarian Party could be out there in some organized way going, hey, let's inform people of their rights and point out how violating libertarian principles is responsible for so much of their pain right now. But what you've done as a resolution is a very important first step.
Yeah. So I am embarrassed that it took us so long. But yeah, I was going to go into, we were busy last year. We did have conventions, changes and plans, and election, campaigns to deal with. So, but I am embarrassed for the national party, the national leadership as well. I don't think there's anything malevolent, malicious about it. I think it's debated, on the LNC, the national leadership. There's, some people on the side of, yes, we need to do more. And same thing, maybe at least pass some resolutions and talk about this. And also, hey, use social media to talk about freedom and in this specific, like Karen Ann Harlos, I think you may be aware of this, the secretary, very adamant, very strong proponent of doing just this sort of thing. Let's keep a dialogue going about it. So the others, I don't know, I've talked to my, our district, our regional reps and that sort of thing. I don't know. I wish we could, but I'll tell you this, it is all about principle, right? Like you said, these things help define principle, and we need to be motivated out of principle. That is one reason why the theme for the Libertarian Party of Kansas State Convention this year is principle, is everything. Jacob Hornberger, whom you may know,
Mhm.
will be speaking at that convention May 1st in Manhattan,
Excellent.
Kansas. Visit lpks.org to register. Thank you.
Well, Ned, your statement concludes here. We oppose any mandate, whether it be through an executive order or an act of local, state, or national government, which would violate these rights. We stand for all your freedoms all of the time. And this is a, something that really has the potential to be a unifying rallying cry and potentially a bigger campaign for the Libertarian Party. So, two separate questions to wrap this up then. What do you hope this turns into for the LP and for the country with, or for Kansas with a resolution or engagement like this from the LP?
Yeah. So within the state of Kansas, this resolution has been broadly applauded. It's been really well received. I think on our social media, there was one who, response was, "Oh, you're going to kill people because, so you think it's okay to just kill people." But other than that, people are saying, "Oh, I've never been prouder to be a libertarian." So I do hope it helps establish that this is the party of principle, and it's already, more and more people are coming back. We've actually had a pretty good continuation from the campaign season last year. Usually after a presidential campaign, a lot of people who signed up to get involved, they disappear. We've actually kept a fair amount of activity and involvement. People and our county chapters are some of them are starting, some of them are growing. So that's really cool. So I hope it kind of keeps to snowball build on that momentum.
And then what impact, what do you want to see for the country coming of this? Like, what would you want? I mean, obviously, like an end to the madness, but in terms of policy, I mean, do we need a change in policy, or could we just have? I mean, because we could keep all this policy and just change to a culture. Like this is one of those opportunities for the Libertarian Party to grab onto this idea that politics is downstream from culture, right? That if the culture is, yeah, you can pass those, mandates, but we're going to exercise exemptions, and we're going to exercise private property rights, and we're going to exercise individual autonomy rights. You really can't enforce it the way you envision. Is there a potential for this to be the catalyst for that kind of shift?
Sure. There's always hope, and not just in regard to this resolution and mask mandates, and this covers vaccine mandates as well, by the way. Not just in regard on this topic, but in general, all my activism as a libertarian in the Libertarian Party, it's let's change things. Let's get rid of bad laws and change policy if we can, and wherever we can, let's do that. Kind of more long term for me, the deeper reason why I do this stuff is to influence culture. It's so that after the collapse, whatever that collapse looks like in the coming any minute now, because of our fiscal policy and Fed all of that, this empire is coming to an end. It's all going to crumble one way or another. So whatever that looks like, whether it's just a lot of economic depression and times are really hard, or if it's everything is gone, one form or another, we're coming to a collapse. And out of that collapse, we want something to rise. So I want to educate, to inspire, to motivate as many people now, so they're in tune with and they're aware of the principles of liberty, so that out of those ashes, this phoenix will rise.
Beautifully said. Ladies and gentlemen, Ned Kelly, chair of the Libertarian Party of Kansas.
Thanks so much for having me on, Adam. I'm going to keep an eye out for that guy. You know who I'm talking about. Comment Jim.
There he is. All right. Well, get that comment back up here. Let's read that one into the record. Great to see Libertarian Party of Kansas being proactive. This should help attract like-minded individuals to the party. That was Craig. Thank you for the comment, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
And Ned, we look forward to having you back on again to follow up on this next time you have something to report.
Peace.
All right, Jim, and let's check in on the audience before. So we have a block that I want to cover with you and CJ here. Actually, 3 stories. Um, but first, any contest entries? I mean, what are people doing to stay? Well, oh, sorry. One other admin note. My friend Matt might be ready to call in like 15, 20 minutes as we get through this block. So if you want to put the link to YouTube or in the YouTube comments for callers, you should be able to get it there.
Okay, all right, I'll do that. Copy
All right,
clip
so to the
forward.
comment contest today, what are people doing to compensate for lowered levels of happiness that may result from seasonal affective disorder that we are experiencing living under this dark cloud of corona that's been with us for a year now?
Well, it's the comments that came in to answer that question were so long ago. I had to take pictures of them because now I won't be able to scroll back far enough to put them on screen. So I'll just have to read them, but I know who put them. D. Vincent W. says playing his guitar very, very loudly. That helps him cope.
You know,
that's good.
that's interesting. That's the first comment because if you recall, one of the earlier hallmarks of the pandemic was the singing parties from balcony to balcony in Italy apartments.
I remember that.
Right?
Yeah, that was cool.
And it was there's been and then one of the other early sort of touchstones of this whole experience was the tone deaf celebrities doing a little Imagine montage. I forget who we're supposed to make fun of for that, but music, it's been interesting to see in this society-wide sort of time of crisis. Even I mean, I don't want to call it a manufactured crisis. Well, no, I don't want to call it a fake crisis. I want to call it a manufactured crisis, right? The crisis is largely manufactured. That does not make it fake. That does not mean people are not suffering. And in this global crisis, it's been interesting to see how music has become very important for a lot of people.
Definitely. Yeah, even Chris Cole weighed in and said he wrote a few new songs. And that's been helping him. So,
and just as a quick reminder, Chris Cole is the I don't know what his official title is now, but president, lead organizer of Victims of Family Law, which started as Victims of Family Law for Kokesh during the campaign and has spun off to have a huge life of its own beyond that, which I'm so excited to see. And Chris is also a musician. You can find his stuff. I think if you just Google Chris Cole Victims of Family Law, you'll be able to find him and find his stuff. I just want to make sure people get a chance to do that. It's good music. Guitar, singer, songwriter. I want to be like Chris Cole. I mean, if I wasn't building a house, maybe when the house is built, maybe when the internet shuts down, when the internet goes down for good, I'm gonna learn how to play guitar.
Okay, all right. Well, on a side note, he also, I don't have it here and it's not too old to put up, but he did, I remember him asking if he wanted to be on his show tonight at 8 p.m.
Yeah,
so,
I'm gonna talk to him, see if we can make that work. Just got the word.
So Josh A. Johnson says he's been eating healthier, can't focus too much on the negativity in the world, got to give yourself some time and try to break some chains.
For a lot of people, just healthier habits in general, people who were it's funny because the overall effect clearly has been negative for health. But for a lot of people, like for people who are going to the gym or had access to better food or activity and then were shut at home and then depressed or what have you. But for a lot of people, there's been the opposite effect where isolation has sort of forced a little introspection that is manifest as development of healthier habits. A lot of people working out at home yoga, paying attention to their diets, being able to be part of it too is just the forced challenge of having to be more deliberate about things. Like, hey, it might be like this for a while. Stock up on MREs and canned food and shit, right?
Right. Furious TV said, live on a terrain/farm and be away from society. That helps him be better, being away from cities, being more rural. Move to a homestead somewhere.
Yeah, no, so it's an interesting sort of dynamic that goes both ways, as the powers that be want us to become more dependent, and here's your $600 and your $1,400, and sort of huddle in cities, and historically speaking, crises led people to huddle together, right? Whereas now this is leading people literally to distance. And for some people, the economic challenges are leading them to be more sort of close living. But there's this whole other countervailing dynamic. Yeah, people go into the homestead lifestyle and saying, I want to be unaffected by things like this. I want to be independent. I mean, even the power grid failure in Texas, which I never thought we'd cover so much weather, but where people are suffering because of the cold, because of the failure of oil and gas, and the failure of centralized electric systems. Going, man, I wish I had some solar panels, huh? Yeah, no shit.
No doubt. That was all I had screenshots of. But CJ, there was a comment I wanted to bring up that CJ had put up when you guys were talking about masks and the different businesses and the restaurants and etc. I like what he said about, just like the smoking sections used to be, how long before businesses are divided into mask, no mask sections?
Well, that's interesting. That would be.
They'd have to have a big plastic section to block off the no mask room so that the maskers felt safe.
Yeah, I don't know if the paranoia of the coronavirus goes that deep. All right, so let's jump into the CJ discussion segment block here. But before we get to the South Dakota story, we got two quicker ones. First, a January 6th follow-up today. No, this is for CJ. This is the CJ discussion block. Yeah, he's hiding now. Now, NBC News. Feds investigating Roger Stone, Alex Jones over role in Capitol riot. Charges were unlikely for Stone and Jones, but investigators want a broad view of who might have instigated the violence. CJ, where's CJ now? CJ, what is your take on this? What are your thoughts on Alex Jones and Roger Stone in particular regarding January 6th?
Well, man, Alex Jones is as responsible for the 6th of January as a butterfly is for a hurricane in the Pacific Ocean. So, at the end of the day, it's just one person's opinion. What does it really matter? I know he was on the east side of the building. When we first got there, there was whispers in the crowd like, Alex Jones is this way. We're like, yeah, we're trying to find him. We want to interview him. He was on the east side of the building. We got footage because we had people on the other side of that building, and he was right up there, he got pretty close to that east side doorway. But again, they let him in on the east side. That's a fact that I don't think anybody really nails home when we're discussing the false flag insurrection of January 6th, is that they allowed things to happen to a certain point. And law enforcement were definitely playing their role in that, even in conducting violence. Another thing is law enforcement agents are under investigation. That number is racking up.
So I saw that story. I didn't get to read it, but what did you make of that? Are they being investigated for failures or for corruption?
Cameras work both ways, right? So when all this footage started leaking, they started piecing together certain individuals that were helping to get to pass certain points where again, there's obviously the kill line that was discovered, the shoot to kill line, where it's okay to shoot past here. It's okay to get gassed up to here. It's okay to clash with law enforcement right here because that's where the line's being drawn. So that's where the clash is going to happen. And Alex was there that day. He was just one voice in the crowd. Like I heard, I even told Cash, I was like, one of my favorite parts of this is you can just yell anything into the crowd, and some people will look at you and be like, "Yeah," like I'd be like, "Free tomatoes," and they're like, "You tell them, brother," and I'd be like, "What?" You know, like it don't matter, like it doesn't. Like you're just one voice. The fact that we're all here. You know, as long as you're not conducting violence, you know, and look at what the FBI is doing. They're like, please refer to photo 2739, and they've got different images of different people for their role and responsibility in violence conducted at the Capitol. And so, for example, some cameras were catching police beating nonviolent people. So before they can charge anybody on any side, people are going to start saying, hey, look at this footage of this cop just start waylaying on people. So, you know, at the end of the day, there's a lot that transpired. You know, people were targeted. The press was targeted, shot indiscriminately into crowds. Of course, it's going to escalate to a riot situation. You're shooting people with gas they can't even identify.
I got two related questions to wrap up this segment, because I know you want to get to the Ravensburg story.
No, let's talk about Alex freaking Jones. He's my favorite.
The story of two Capitol cops committing suicide after this. Did you follow that at all?
Yeah, no, I've heard that story too. I mean, again, you know, I'm not going to question someone's motives on suicide unless I mean, even if there was a manifesto, how do you even know that's a legit manifesto, or what they would have done, or who they were involved? Do you really think the information coming out of that day is going to be like, hey guys, we're just going to tell you the truth about what happened that day? Do you really think the government's be like, yeah, we staged this and we executed some of you as martyrs for your own causes? But yeah, okay.
Well, no, it would, well, because the mainstream narrative on the suicides is that being there was so stressful.
Oh,
I mean, we're combat vets here, you know, and I understand that, like, you know, a mob of protesters turns into a riot. You're a cop on duty. You fear for your life. By the way, they're saying the cause of death of the cop that got attacked was not the fire extinguisher on the head anymore either. I mean, there's a lot that's going to be revised.
Did he have
one of those things where I'm like,
did he have COVID? They could list it
oh
as
yeah, it was a COVID death.
It was a COVID death. Yeah, sorry, we got that one wrong. But again, the point that I'm trying to make is that it was staged to a certain point, that certain failures transpired directly as a result of individuals. And then there were cops who were probably like, yeah, they're douchebags in there. Like, see what happens. I want to know who's corrupt within it myself. There was probably, I guarantee you, there's cops that were like, I'm going to look the other way. I'm going to use discretion, as a certain member of our audience likes to say. And so, you know, but again, I only saw what I saw and witnessed to what I witnessed to. I witnessed to crazy things that you can't even imagine. Like you could play bingo on this day forever. Like, but you know, there were acts of kindness. There were acts of bravery to help pull people back that definitely shouldn't have been there. That they climbed places that they definitely shouldn't have gone, like physically. There was a dog up there. Somebody dragged a dog through tear gas, and they're like, this is the most American thing you could do. There was a man dressed as an eagle with a red, white, and blue suit. Like it looked like an expensive suit with just an eagle head mask and gloves. And he was at the front kicking it with, like, I mean, no, I mean, again, I mean, things you could have never predicted. And, but again, I'm of the belief that I think they knew that this is going to go to a certain extent, and they knew where the line was going to be. And, yeah, as a result, it was planned by the government. Yeah.
All right. So the reason I asked about the suicides in particular is that if you were picking apart all of the footage and you could find that those cops were never in danger, but were involved in letting rioters into the building, say, it would be highly indicative that they were not that they were suicided. But then my last question on this, because I know it was a very stressful time for you and Cash, coming out and having to speak with the FBI yourselves. How are you guys doing? And do you think there's any other, stress or legal or mental health fallout for cops and participants coming to light at this point?
That's a real big loaded question.
Oh yeah, don't worry. It's the last one though on this topic. I promise.
Okay, so again, there's things that I can never unsee that I saw that day. There are people that were actively conducting violence against the police in response to violence being conducted against them. And, I saw people get indiscriminately tear gassed, and then they went right up to the front and thought that they were going to figure out which officer had shot at them because they were pissed off. Now, Cash and myself, we went there and presented ourselves as media. We were interviewing people as they were going through this, and trying to get genuine human reactions to what's happening. And there was one point that there was a point where they wanted to bust the windows, and this is after I'd already looked up at the door. I'm sitting here looking in this hallway of seeing again images in my mind that like things that you can never see. Like you're there. A camera only goes so far. I mean, my phone got busted, so I'm just looking for Cash. I'm sitting here watching people like, I'm going to bust this window out. I'm like, I'm going to record you doing it. I mean, because again, if you're there to conduct violence in an offensive manner, I mean, that's, again, there's a lot that transpired that day. And, there were probably cops, in my opinion, on both sides that felt like they were in the right. I would venture to guess there were people in local militias and local law enforcements and people from all around the country in a crazy representation of the real state of politics in our country. And they learned a lot. I mean, let me ask you this, Adam. Why all of a sudden are Democrats like, yeah, put up a wall and put armed guards around it while we like, fuck.
Oh, come on, CJ. I said that was the last question on the topic. All right, moving on.
I'm asking you. That was me asking you a question.
I know, but we only got a few minutes left. Let's switch gears dramatically here. News18.com. YouTube AI blocked chess channel after confusing black and white for racist slurs, at least allegedly. Did YouTube block a chess channel over violation of community guidelines and usage of racist language? Last year, a YouTuber who produces popular chess videos found that his channel was blocked over charges of harmful and dangerous content. Even though the channel was restored within 24 hours, the YouTube didn't. That's sick. The YouTube did not explain why it had blocked Croatian chess player Antonio Radic, also known as Agad Mator, from its platform. Briefly, experts suggest it was the usage of words like black and white that confused YouTube's AI filters. They found that 80% of chess videos that were flagged for hate speech actually had terms like black, white, attack, and threat. So, CJ, I bring this to you because you're an international chess champion and an expert on the subject.
Right.
And obviously, we need to do something about the racist nature of chess. I say we change the colors to purple and green. I know you've said yellow and burgundy, but I really do feel strongly about this. And even getting rid of attack and threat, we should make chess about hugs and kisses instead. You're on board with this, right? No, obviously the question is it possible that Adam versus the Man has never been censored? And this whole time we've just been accidentally caught up in YouTube's AI filters?
I think it's pretty clear that we need to get rid of all the color schemes and just say this side and that side. You're either on this side or you're that side.
I'm on this. I'm on this side right here. I mean, if you really want to play chess this morning.
Battle for the White House chess set.
Yeah.
So is one side just a bunch of average people and the other side all the politicians?
No, Democrats. They got Obama and Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, Bader.
Oh, Democrats versus Republicans.
Yeah,
I would rather see one that says people versus the establishment or something like that.
The pawns are the people, man. The pawns are the people.
The pawns are right, but
right, but
I'd
they're
rather
actually
see-
represented by like little elephants and little donkeys.
I hate this game because just like in real life, regardless of the game, a terrorist wins. A bad guy wins. There's no
Okay,
way for
so
a good guy to win.
any CJ, any serious implications for political censorship on YouTube?
What, you're asking me
Yeah,
about what? About what
I
censorship
don't know.
specifically?
Do you? I mean, just to remind people, what I understand is the story with Adam versus the Man of our channel was that when Google took over YouTube, that because we had weed and marijuana as default tags, it got flagged and all those videos got demonetized as, unsuitable for advertisers. And it wasn't even, I mean, that it wasn't even that deliberate. That, I mean, is it possible that all the censorship libertarians experience on the internet is really just, whoops, we really just don't care about protecting your message like so many others and it gets swept up. And so we're not going to protect it because it's not our ideology.
Again, these are some really loaded questions this morning, Adam.
Is it really deliberate? How much do we want to anthropomorphize YouTube or Google as deliberately censoring libertarians? This is a question that I ponder, that this story raises. And I just quick take from both of you guys. How deliberate is it what we are experiencing with this channel and with so many others that just get blocked, deleted from Facebook, from Twitter, from YouTube without a word? They're like customer service black holes. You have to have a lawsuit against them if you want any kind of response. How much of it is deliberate? How much of it is just meh? Whoops.
99% deliberate.
Okay.
What I think.
I
They're
think
in full control and know exactly what they're doing, and
Well-
it's math beyond our comprehension that they use to play these games
Okay, so
and set these rules.
I'd say you'd be hard pressed to say that the accidental or unintentional censorship of libertarians is less than 5%. If you said 95.5, I would respect that. But okay, CJ.
Well, one, we're live on YouTube right now. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Periscope. We don't have closed captionings on our live shows. I don't think that they can keep up with this show. As you go to YouTube, it doesn't have closed captionings. But after the fact, and after everything's read into the record auditorily and then put into their text algorithm, I'm sure we've triggered all the words that are supposed to. All the best words that make those sensors go red flag, so that the only people that are actually really going to tune in are the ones that are dedicated. I truly do believe that. If you're actively engaging and looking for the show, they can't stop you looking for where to get the content. Now, do they have to monetize us? No, they don't. But if they did, oh man, would it be a lovely day for this broadcast. If they actually monetize this channel as a fair production and a libertarian-minded production at that, we'd be having some pretty decent days. But because YouTube has a invested interest in one political narrative over another, then shows like ours become just collateral damage in a bigger sense. We're not necessarily, we can't really even judge the numbers of this show compared to any real other show, because it has to be approved past a certain point for you to either see it or hear it to some extent or another. I mean, yeah. And then I like what First Domino did. Here's some money. I like that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, send us money through the Google machine. You can launder your drug money to send it through the Google washing machine to Adam versus the Man. and we will turn it into freedom.
But again, dude, if you want to go through the algorithms, if you want to go through the channels and the data and the statistics of this show, none of it makes any sense to me or many others other than we ramp up and then it just plateaus down. So either that's, I mean, how do you ramp up to millions of views?
Okay, so hold on. I want to address that comment just thrown up there. Jim said people need to smash that like button more. I don't know if you guys noticed, but we don't do that kind of shit. We don't do like smash that like button and share this video. We say share.
Hold on. If we had like a sponsor who wanted him to promo, share, and like this video and this, that, and the other, there's a way to do that. But no, I don't think that we're going to dedicate our time to smash the button. It's like most people I think that are watching us are either busy themselves or, you know, there's channels that can do that. I don't think that's this kind of show. We hit our promos at the beginning and the end. And, you know, like we're on par with a long talk format. Most people that listen to us understand that too. But yeah, no, I'm of the mindset that they're not going to just go here. Listen to Adam Kokesh for 2 hours a day because he's right about the government and what they're doing to you,
or because everybody in his audience hit the like button.
Or yeah, and if they did, I think that would also just trigger a flag too to say, hey, why is this video in particular getting more views than the other one? I mean, your number one video, I still, as I'm scrolling through YouTube, see it. It's at 34 million, your very first one.
Yeah, so hold on. This comment here from Rob B. I've seen live streams get taken down midstream due to law conversations. That makes sense. And actually, that makes me think that in some way, our channel is kind of protected. Like from a floor. Like, I don't know if this is intentional, like, because I could anthropomorphize this and say, well, they don't want to shut down our channel because then more people would notice and go, hey, what's being censored? Shadow banning is a better way to make sure less people see our content. Right. Absolutely. But it could be that, hey, guys, guess what? We've accomplished something with YouTube where, you know, because we've got 250,000, although we've been like flat at 250,000 subs for so long, it's really
still there even a year later. It's like it feels
it's weird. Even with turnover,
a little higher,
like
but yeah.
What are the odds that like we've lost subs and gained subs, and over the last year it stayed like right at 250,000? But yeah, but they haven't, you know, and we get strikes and we get restrictions and we were banned from posting for a while. But it seems like we're kind of protected from being taken down. I don't know. Maybe there's some floor there. Like we've hit enough flags that a wave of flags wouldn't really affect our live stream being taken down mid-conversation. I don't think that's ever happened to us. Anyway, CJ, since we're over time, last story, you wanted us to start with ABC's coverage of this. The headline, South Dakota Attorney General Jason Ravensborg faces 3 misdemeanor charges for fatal crash. The accident did not meet the conditions for manslaughter, officials said. What's your take on this?
No, it's bullshit. This is the clearest case of there's a dividing class between you, the general public, and them, the controlling elite within the government. Okay? This is that case. I'm not going to give the full story. If you want to get into the full story of what happened, I had Devin and Mike on this morning on my broadcast where it was like a crash course of conversation about what transpired. But the big takeaway for me is that I had to explain what the significance of a comma means. Okay? Do you know what a comma means, Adam? What a comma is in the written language? It's a comma. It signifies a short pause in a sentence. It can also divide clauses, parts of a sentence or items in a list, and is often used to create division or to improve the clarity.
Put a space right there. There's a comma.
So when you say "let's eat grandma," people know what you're talking about because you put a comma in there, and it's "let's eat grandma."
But see, we're talking about not just clauses. We're talking about clauses that are within a sentence, right? Structurally. So a clause sentence is an independent clause. It is a group of words that contains a subject and verb and express a complete thought. An independent clause is a sentence. Jim studied in a sweatshop for his chemistry quiz. A dependent clause is a group of words that contain a subject and verb and does not express a complete thought. So what they're saying is that the manslaughter charge is in codified law for South Dakota is 22-16-41 vehicular homicide. That's the felony for killing someone with your car when you are reckless and endangering people by doing unsafe acts while driving.
Okay.
The statement reads in law, any person who, comma, okay, there's a comma, a break in thought, while under the influence of alcohol, comma, a break in thought, drugs, comma, a break in thought, or substance in a manner to agree prohibited by 3223-1 without, oh wait, comma, there's a pause in thought, without designing to affect death, comma, operates or drives a vehicle of any kind in a negligent manner and hereby causes the death of another person, comma, including an unborn child, comma, is guilty of vehicular homicide, period. So, but the charging documents that came out is that he has to be specifically on, their interpretation is that he has to be specifically on an alcohol, drugs, or substances in a manner of a degree prohibited in other law without design effective death, meaning he didn't, mean to do it, but operates or drives any kind of in a negligent manner. They were already on record saying he drove negligently. You have to drive and kill somebody with your car. There's some negligence in there, unless you're going to say you had a heart attack or you passed. I mean, even passing out behind the wheel is iffy because you're driving at 2:00 in the morning. But anyway, they're saying that because he wasn't under an alcohol influence or drug influence or anything like that it doesn't warrant vehicular homicide. But my argument is that you can take out all of this in the sentence, okay? And still read the vehicular homicide is any person who operates or drives a vehicle of any kind in a negligent manner and thereby causes the death of another person, period. That's what commas do in sentences when separating clauses. And why I have to explain this is an insane thing to me. But, again, he's going to get away with it with 3 misdemeanors. So essentially what they've done is make killing somebody with your car a misdemeanor charge. Okay.
If you're the attorney general.
No, that's a precedence now set in case law.
You think so? All right.
Yeah, absolutely. By not charging him and taking this all the way to a jury trial, they're setting a precedence.
I think this is the rules for thee and not for me kind of situation a little bit more.
But you're
right, because you're right. You're saying that because they created this response that was, hey, here's a special exemption, other people are going to be able to use this and get away with this. Hopefully, I mean, it's kind of a marginal thing. It's not like people are going to go, oh, well, because he got away with it, I'm going to go negligently kill someone. But in the few marginal cases that do go to arrest and legal procedures, this strategy may be employed and appealed to as a precedent that someone could say, well, he got away with it, therefore I should be able to. Now, there's one other headline related to this from the Grand Forks Herald. South Dakota's Attorney General testifies against bill to lower state's penalty for manslaughter. And I saw this, I read it the opposite way at first, as if he was going, hey, just in case I get convicted of manslaughter, can we make sure the penalties are pretty low? No, he's doing the opposite of that, saying that we shouldn't pass this bill to lower the penalty for manslaughter while facing an investigation that involves potential manslaughter, although it might be technically over at this point. But according to the story, Ravensburg is facing possible vehicular homicide or second-degree manslaughter charges stemming from a now infamous incident along Highway 14 in Hyde County last September when the Ford Taurus he was driving struck 55-year-old Joseph Bover, who was walking along the shoulder of the road after the Highmore man's pickup had stalled. And either he should have recused himself in this debate. Basically, he didn't have to jump in, but it might be some weird kind of virtue signaling that it's his way of communicating. oh, I'm so confident that I'm innocent. Let's just keep the manslaughter penalties where they're at. CJ, anything else to read
Ravensburg
into this
then
headline?
spoke about an abduction, rape, and murder case perpetrated by a Sioux Falls man. Only days after the man released on parole, the Attorney General said 25 years, the penalty cap proposed by the measure. It wouldn't have been a harsh enough penalty in that case. So he's got a history of just making sure that if you break the law, you're going to sit behind bars for as long as we can possibly put you away.
Yeah.
But when
So it
it's
might just be
him,
unrelated. Yeah, it's just him doing his job as the Attorney General, keeping the prison system, the legal
right,
system
where
propped up, right?
the biggest takeaway for me in this is that he will try and convict you for doing an act that creates no victim, and he will lock you away for the maximum time that he can. But when he commits a crime and creates a real victim, he gets a slap on the wrist, and it is just washed under the rug as just one more death. And they
Of
covered it
course.
up. And yeah, he should have resigned. He didn't. The Republicans should have asked for his resignation. He was still charging people. Like, there were still people sitting in cages that created no victim while he was getting away with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah, the bail or bond situation is always unfair. It is really sad how that hurts poor people and favors people like this. All right, CJ, thank you very much for waiting on those stories. Jim, do we have a favorite comment for our question today? I leave it to you because all the good ones before I think were from Producer Club members.
No, there was some. That was not. Let me look here. Like the one, Josh A. Johnson, I don't believe he's a member, and he said eating healthier and not focusing on the negative stuff and breaking some chains.
Do we have anything better than that? I'm happy to give away a membership for that comment.
Furious TV was the one that suggested living on a terrainer farm away from society, and I don't think they're a member yet.
Oh, let's offer both of them then. Unless you got a clincher that's like above and beyond and got some comedy in it or something.
No, we can offer to both of them. Whichever one
All
of them's still with us, email me at jim@thefreedomline.com. CJ, I'll put it up here. And there it is, jim@thefreedomline.com. Email that. That's me. I'll get you hooked up into the private producers club, which is what you've just won. If you don't feel like winning one of these contests like Furious TV and Josh A. Johnson just did, then you can just go to our website, adamversustheman.com, and click on the Patreon link. And you can buy yourself access straight into the private producers club if you want to at the $10 a month level that you see there. That'll get you access. And it's a step cooler than, I'm sorry, CJ, I saw you had the public channel up there. T.me/Adam versus the Man is the public channel that everybody's welcome to. But if you want to be cool like Josh Johnson or Furious TV, then go check out the Patreon and get yourself hooked up. After that, go back to the website, check out the store CJ's put together. Lots of cool stuff on there, even freedom panties, freedom boxers. Somebody earlier was talking about freedom condoms in the chat. I didn't get to put that up, but
let's just have freedom
handcuffs
too while we're at it.
There you go. We should get freedom handcuffs. Producers Club members and better patrons always get 15% off free shipping with every single order. So go crazy, have fun with that. Get yourself stuff with the Freedom logo all over everything. And also go back to Adam versus the Man and check out our affiliate program, cigarfederation.com. That's where you can check out all of they have a ton to choose from, a bunch of exotically flavored cigars. Really cool website, easy to navigate, easy to put in the promo code when you're purchasing ADAM10, all caps. That's going to get you 10% off of anything you order there at that awesome website, cigarfederation.com. And then lastly, if you're on Instagram, go to @thegardenofreedom, and you'll be able to keep up with all the pictures and videos that Adam has going on with life up there in Gardenia. There's one of his newer ones. They just got a couch put into their new place. Lots of construction and lots of new stuff going on right now. And you can even go back and see everything he's been up to for the last year. So check that out. It's a good time.
Thank you, Jim. So from today in history, from goodnewsnetwork.org, it was on this day in 1732. the George Washington was born. On this day in 1865, Tennessee adopted a new constitution that abolished slavery. On this day in 1973, China and the U.S. agreed to establish diplomatic liaison offices. Ironically, on the also anniversary of 237 years ago today, the first American ship to trade with China, Empress of China, set its sails from New York Harbor, which was also commemorated 35 years ago when China minted a silver 5 yuan coin to commemorate the voyage of the Empress. And on this day in 1986, the People Power Revolution started in the Philippines. And with that, happy Monday. Peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.